Hey guys, Ultra Healthy Video Game Nerd. Hey guys, Ultra Healthy Video Game Nerd here. Welcome back to another episode. I've done a couple shows about obscure 2D games on the PlayStation 1, and there are definitely more than a couple. So today I'm going to introduce yet another peculiar 2D game for the PlayStation. It's none other than Kyuiin. This is a peculiar little horizontal shoot-'em-up that was only released in Japan. So let's take a look at what makes it so interesting. Kyuiin was released in 1996 by Media Entertainment, the same company that developed Koro Koro Postonin, which I reviewed a few episodes ago. Unlike the high-tech spaceships so many other shooters offer their protagonists, this game has you riding on a living vacuum cleaner. Well, that was probably a first. You have a standard shot, which can be changed to several different weapons by picking up items that occasionally appear in the stages. But the twist to the game is the end of the vacuum, which floats in front of your character and will suck up most smaller enemies and bullets, charging up a superpowered laser. You can charge up to 3 of these lasers at a time, and the more you have saved up, the more powerful the attack will be. You can also do a short-range attack backwards with the vacuum cleaner's cord by hitting the square button. To be honest, the laser charges up pretty quickly, and you're invincible while you're using it, so you would think most players would just shoot it off as much as possible. As it turns out, you don't get any points for killing enemies with the laser. The programmers developed the game such that you'll get more points depending on how you attack the enemies, so that more skilled gamers can go for a higher score by using more daring attack methods. Killing enemies with the laser gives you nothing. The standard shot will give you a certain amount of points, but sucking up enemies with the tip of the vacuum gives you noticeably more points, and killing enemies with the cord will decidedly give you the biggest score. Of course, sucking enemies up with the vacuum requires you to get closer to them, and thus puts you in more danger of getting hit. And positioning yourself to where you can attack an enemy from behind with the cord is usually very difficult. It's a simple but effective way of keeping the player busy sizing up the on-screen situation and thinking about whether they want to go for a bigger score or need to prioritize staying alive. I've found that around halfway through the 3rd level, I'm only interested in getting through the swarms of enemies in one piece and don't think too much about extending my score. It's also worth mentioning the damage system. Getting hit once won't kill you immediately. Instead, you'll go into malfunction mode, in which you lose the tube of your vacuum and only have a very weak shot. It's horrible actually, since the shot isn't strong enough to kill most enemies before they've flown by you, so most likely you'll end up getting hit again quickly, which will result in a lost life. If you do manage to stay alive for a little while, a medical kit item will appear which will heal you back to normal. One of the reasons I wanted to do a video about this game is because I had a really difficult time deciding whether I wanted to actually spend the money to try it out. Some games you can watch a video and figure out more or less how it's going to feel to play and whether you're going to enjoy it or not. But some games you really need to just sit down and have the controller in your hand before you can understand how it feels. Kyuiin is definitely one of those games. I had watched videos of it several times, and it just looked so basic, with enemies slowly flying across the screen. There didn't seem to be any tricky patterns to dodge or innovation to the genre. Once you've had the opportunity to play it, you'll discover that Kyuiin is sufficiently challenging. There's an easy and hard mode. On easy mode, the repair kits come pretty quickly after you get hit, and the bosses take less hits to kill. Hard mode makes you wait quite a while after getting hit before a repair kit appears, making it damn hard. As for the graphics, your main character appears to be pre-rendered, but everything else is hand-drawn, and does a good job evoking the simplicity of the 2D era. Enemies come in the form of birds, bees, floating knights, and angels? Hold on a minute. This is where things start to get weird. As it turns out, the graphical design in this game is completely haphazard. There seems to be no coherency or consistent idea to the type of baddies that come after you in this game. You've got paper airplanes, a frog, several types of angels, insane clouds with googly eyes, and watch out for those killer snowflakes! Shirts! T-shirts, god damn it! What in the world were these people thinking? I mean, this rivals Action 52. It's like the graphic designers had no instructions from the director of the game and just started coming up with random crap because they didn't know what else to do. The bosses are even worse in a way. For one example, you suddenly find yourself in the world of Little Red Riding Hood and fight the big bad wolf. There's also this huge chain of tomatoes that changes form so many times, I thought it was the boss of the game the first time I ever got to it. What the hell is this? Okay, am I fighting against the Bremen Town musicians, for God's sakes? Look at this. This is absolutely absurd, and there's nothing in the level that indicates it's leading up to this boss. I suppose the game is consistent with its inconsistency, as the music also induces head scratching. There's no percussion. It's not techno, it's not cutesy Japanese video game music, it's not hard rock, it's not even orchestrated. It's the kind of music you would expect to hear playing in the background of a children's storybook animated video. I know the concept of the game is that you've been sucked into a children's storybook, but the music doesn't match the actual gameplay at all. It's a shooter, for God's sakes. Even if they didn't have the budget or time to make a soundtrack as deep as Cotton Boomerang or Harmful Park, the precedent is in place. Look at this. Muscle-bound ferrymen attacking me as soothing oboes and flutes play incessantly and draw us into the experience. The real soundtrack of life, huh? There is no way in the world that the graphic artists and composer for this game actually sat down in a room together and discussed what type of game it was going to be. I refuse to believe it. It's as if one person had the idea for a game, but kept all the people who were responsible for the different aspects of the game in different rooms. It's like programmers over here, graphic artists over here, composer way the hell over here. And even the director of the game himself didn't really seem like he knew what kind of game he wanted to make, just that he wanted to make some kind of game. I can hear the conversation they're having together right now. Graphic artist asks, okay, so what kind of enemies and character design do you want us to do for this game? I don't know. Why don't you just come up with some sketches? Well, come on, we need something. I mean, is it cute? Is it devilish? Is it a horror game? What do we got going? I trust your judgment. Just draw some stuff and we'll decide later. This game is the culmination of unfinished ideas and very bad coordination. And I love it. It's ridiculous. I can't explain it, but I just love to be in the world that this game creates. There's something that you can't explain about it. Everything is so mismatched. It just feels almost ethereal. It's almost as if the recipe to a great game isn't something that you can quantify. It's like, even if you have the perfect roadmap, all the kinks ironed out, you still don't necessarily come out with a great game. Kyuiin is the proof of that. I think it's a miracle that this game even made it to market. Well, the developers were either artistic geniuses or they just got really lucky. Before I finish, I should mention the downfalls to the actual gameplay. The hitbox is really big, and it's hard to understand where it is. Most of the time when you take a hit, you'll just be like, what the hell, how did that happen? Hardcore shooter fans can probably adjust. I felt the biggest problem with the game is that there are no one-ups. This doesn't make any sense, as you're encouraged to put yourself at risk to get a higher score. Also, since the game has unlimited continues, you'll probably want to try to beat it without continuing at all, and obviously, not getting extra lives makes this harder. I feel like this was an oversight in the game. But really, that's about all. Most of the bosses have fair, learnable patterns and don't dish out cheap attacks. If you're planning on buying this game, be careful. Most stores in Japan charge about $60 for it, but it was only bid up to $30 when I got it on Yahoo Auctions, so it might not have that much value. There are relatively few copies, it's true, but that alone doesn't necessarily mean a game has a lot of value. You guys watching this will probably have no choice but to get it on eBay, where a lot of sneaky resellers try to sell things for way more than what they're worth. Hate them. I can't really suggest paying more than $100 US for Kyuiin. At least make sure you have Xenac Neo first. Interestingly, there was a greatest hits version of Kyuiin, and I'm pretty sure it's even rarer than the original release, since I've only ever seen one copy of it. I have no idea how that could have happened, considering the game probably wasn't even released in high enough numbers to garner greatest hits worthy sales. The world is a mysterious place. That brings us to the end of this video about the lovable Kyuiin. That's all for me. Thanks a lot for watching to the end. I always appreciate it. And if you enjoyed what you saw, please hit that subscribe button. See you next time.